The day my 36-year-old daughter married a 68-year-old man, a man who once rocked her to sleep and stood as best man at my wedding, she didn't just betray me. She betrayed her own self. What she didn't know was that I had discovered the conspiracy behind his plans. By the end of the week, my lawyer had sent them both legal notices. Before we continue, I request that you please let me know where you are watching from. It helps me know how far my stories are reaching. Now, let's get back to today's story. The call came at 4:47 p.m. on a Tuesday. Daddy, I have wonderful news. Gerald and I got married yesterday. The room tilted. Actually tilted, like the floor had dropped away beneath my feet. Gerald Aldrich, my law partner of 30 years. The man who'd been best man at my wedding. Who'd held Corinne when she was born. Who'd sat in the front row at Vivian's funeral 8 months ago, dabbing his eyes with a handkerchief. 68 years old. My exact age. You married Gerald. The words came out strangled. Not a question. A statement of something so grotesque my brain couldn't process it. I know it seems sudden, but Daddy, we're in love. Real love. And we've decided to move into the estate. It's too big for you alone anyway, and legally, Mom's will. Stop. My voice cracked. Stop talking. Daddy, I know you're surprised, but if you just listen. You married a man my age. A man who knew you as a child. A man who, I couldn't breathe. The walls of my study were closing in, covered with photographs of our family. Corinne as a baby in my arms. Corinne's college graduation with Vivian beaming beside her. Corinne at Christmas 3 years ago, before everything turned to ash. Age doesn't matter when you find your soulmate, she said, and there was something sharp in her voice. Defensive. Rehearsed. Gerald understands me in ways you never did. He doesn't judge me. He doesn't make me feel like a disappointment. The word hit like a fist to the solar plexus. A disappointment? Is that what you think? Check your email, Daddy. We've attached Mom's codicil. The property transfers to me upon my marriage. We'll be moving in next week. We can discuss living arrangements then. She hung up. I stood there holding the phone, staring at Vivian's photograph on my desk. She's smiling in it, taken 3 weeks before the cancer took her, but her eyes, God, her eyes looked sad. Like she knew. Like she could see this coming and was trying to warn me from beyond the grave. My hands were shaking so badly I could barely open my laptop. The email was there. Professional. Cold. Dear Edmund, not Dear Daddy. An attachment, legal document, notarized seal, Vivian's signature at the bottom. Upon the marriage of Corinne Elizabeth Whitmore, all property and assets of the Whitmore estate shall transfer to her name immediately and without contest. Vivian's signature. Her handwriting on the document. My wife. My Vivian. Leaving everything to the daughter who just married my best friend to steal my home. I made it to the bathroom before I vomited. I don't remember the rest of that evening. I know I sat in Vivian's study for hours, in the dark, surrounded by her things. Her books. Her reading glasses still on the side table. Her cardigan on the back of the chair, still smelling faintly of her perfume even after 8 months. Why? I asked the empty room. Why would you do this to me? We'd been married for 43 years. I'd held her hand through 2 miscarriages before Corinne was born. I'd sat beside her hospital bed for 3 months while the cancer ate her alive, watching her waste away to nothing, promising her that I'd take care of Corinne, that I'd protect her, that everything would be okay. And she'd signed our home away to the daughter who just drove a knife into my back? It didn't make sense. Vivian was meticulous. Careful. She'd spent her career as a librarian organizing, categorizing, making sure everything was in its proper place. She wouldn't have made a mistake like this. Unless it wasn't a mistake. Unless she'd wanted Corinne to have the house. Unless I'd been so wrapped up in my own grief that I'd missed something essential about my wife, my daughter, everything I thought I knew about my family. I opened Vivian's filing cabinet with trembling hands. Estate documents. Wills. Trusts. Everything organized by date with colored tabs and cross-references in her neat handwriting. But something was wrong. The folders were too simple. Too clean. Vivian's system had been Byzantine, duplicate copies, backup files, notes and margins referencing other documents. These folders were stripped down, reorganized. Someone had been through them. Recently, I pulled out every folder, spread them across the floor, tried to make sense of what was missing. Birth certificates, marriage license, property deeds, all there. But the will folder was too thin. Vivian had kept multiple drafts, notes about changes she wanted to make, correspondence with her attorney. Now there was just one document. The one Corinne had emailed me. My daughter had been in this house, in her dead mother's study, removing documents, replacing them, planning this. The rage hit me then. Pure, white-hot fury that made my vision blur and my chest constrict until I thought I might be having a heart attack. My daughter. My little girl who I'd rocked to sleep every night when she had nightmares. Who I'd taught to ride a bike. Who'd called me hero until she was 12 years old. She'd conspired with my best friend to steal my home while her mother's body was barely cold in the ground. I wanted to break something. Wanted to drive to wherever she was living with that bastard Gerald and... No, I couldn't think like that. Couldn't let the rage consume me. I was a prosecutor for 38 years. I'd put away murderers, rapists, con artists. I knew how to think strategically, how to build a case, how to find the truth buried under layers of lies. I pulled out my phone with shaking hands and called Preston Hale, Vivian's attorney. He answered on the second ring. Edmund, I've been expecting your call. You knew? My voice came out raw. Broken. You knew Corinne was going to do this? No, but I knew something was coming. Vivian made me promise. He paused. Edmund, you need to come to my office. Tomorrow morning. There's something I need to show you. Something Vivian left for you. Just tell me now, Preston. Please. I can't. I need to know what's happening. Why my wife would. Not over the phone. Tomorrow. 9 a.m. And Edmund. His voice softened. Bring the document Corinne sent you. I need to see it. Why? Because I don't think it's the real codicil. The room spun again. What? Vivian did execute a codicil 3 days before she died. I witnessed it myself, along with 2 nurses. But what she wrote, he exhaled slowly. It wasn't what Corinne sent you. I'm certain of it. Then what the hell is this? Did my daughter forge her dead mother's will? Silence on the other end. Then, come to my office. 9 a.m. There's something Vivian wrote that I can't tell you over the phone. Something she made me swear I wouldn't reveal until this exact situation happened. What situation? Until the worst possible thing happened. Her words, not mine. When the worst possible thing happens, Preston, that's when you show Edmund what I really wrote. Not before. I'm sorry, Edmund. I have to honor her wishes. But tomorrow, you'll understand everything. He hung up. I sat there in my dead wife's study, surrounded by evidence that my daughter had betrayed me, holding a phone that had just told me there were more secrets buried underneath the betrayal. And I started to cry. Great, heaving sobs that came from somewhere deep in my chest, where I'd been storing 8 months of grief, and now this fresh, raw agony of being stabbed in the back by the only family I had left. Vivian, I whispered to the empty room. God, Vivian, what did you know? What were you trying to tell me? The cardigan on her chair didn't answer. The books on her shelf stayed silent. The photograph on the wall, our wedding day, young and stupid, and so in love we couldn't see anything but each other, just stared at me with frozen smiles. I was 68 years old. I'd lost my wife. And now I was losing my daughter and my home and every single thing I'd built in my life. And somewhere, somehow, Vivian had known this was coming. What had she seen that I'd been too blind to notice? I didn't sleep. How could I? Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Corinne's face. Not as she was now, but as she'd been at 6 years old, climbing into my lap with a scraped knee, trusting me to fix it. Trusting me to fix everything. When had that trust turned to contempt? When had I become someone she wanted to hurt? I drove to Preston's office at 7:30 a.m., 90 minutes early, and sat in my car in the parking lot watching the sun come up over the building where I'd drafted my own will 20 years ago. Where Vivian and I had planned our estate together, holding hands, talking about what we'd leave to Corinne, how we'd make sure she was taken care of. We'd been so careful, so thoughtful. We'd wanted to give her security, opportunity, everything we hadn't had growing up. And she'd thanked us by forging documents and marrying a man old enough to be. No, he wasn't old enough to be her father. He was her father's age, which was so much worse, so much more calculated and cruel. Preston arrived at 8:45, saw me sitting in the car and walked over, tapped on the window. Come inside, Edmund. Let's get you some coffee. I followed him like a ghost. Couldn't feel my legs moving. Couldn't feel anything except the crushing weight in my chest. His conference room had windows overlooking the valley. Morning light streaming in. Beautiful day. The kind of day Vivian would have loved. Preston set 2 mugs of coffee on the table and sat down across from me. Show me what Corinne sent you. I pulled out the printed document with trembling hands. He read it slowly, methodically, the way Vivian used to read, lips moving slightly, finger tracing the lines. This is a forgery, he said finally. You're sure? Look at the notary seal. It's from a company that wasn't licensed in Virginia until 4 months after Vivian died. The witness signatures. He pulled out a magnifying glass, examined them. These are photocopied from other documents and digitally inserted. Whoever did this was skilled, but not skilled enough. Gerald, I said. My voice sounded dead. He was an estate attorney. He'd know how to do this. Edmund. Preston looked at me with something like pity. I need to ask you something, and I need you to think carefully before you answer. When Vivian was dying, did Corinne visit her alone, without you present? The memory hit like a freight train. 2 months before Vivian died, I'd come to the hospital one morning and found her crying. Not from pain. She was good at hiding pain. This was different. Deeper. What's wrong? I'd asked, taking her hand. Corinne visited last night, after you went home. And she asked me questions. About the estate. About how inheritance works. About whether there were ways to simplify the process. Vivian's voice had been so small. So broken. Edmund, she asked me if marriage could trigger property transfers. If there were loopholes in the trust. She's probably just trying to understand. No. Vivian had gripped my hand hard enough to hurt. She wasn't curious. She was researching. Planning. Our daughter came to her dying mother's hospital bed and started calculating how to get her inheritance faster. I tried to rationalize it then. Grief makes people say strange things, think strange thoughts. Corinne was just scared of losing her mother, trying to understand what would happen after. But Vivian had seen the truth. And I'd been too desperate to believe in my daughter's goodness to listen. Yes, I told Preston now. Corinne visited alone. Multiple times. And Vivian was upset afterward. I thought it was just, my voice broke. I thought she was emotional. Sick. I didn't realize our daughter was interrogating her. Preston nodded slowly. The day after one of those visits, Vivian called me. She was in the hospital, could barely speak without coughing, but she was insistent. She said, Preston, I need to change my will immediately. Today. Now. My daughter is going to do something terrible, and I need to protect her from herself. Protect her? She's trying to steal my house. Edmund, listen. Vivian made me promise I wouldn't tell you what she wrote until you had proof that Corinne had lied. She said, if I tell him too soon, he'll try to fix it. He'll try to talk to Corinne, reason with her, make it better. But this can't be fixed that way. She needs to fail completely before she can be saved. I don't understand. Preston stood and walked to his safe. Unlocked it. Pulled out a document and a sealed envelope. This, he said, laying the document on the table, is Vivian's real codicil. Signed 3 days before she died. Witnessed by me and 2 nurses. Completely legal and binding. I pulled it toward me with shaking hands and started to read. The codicil did 3 things. First, any marriage Corinne entered within 5 years of Vivian's death had to be approved by Preston as an independent trustee to ensure it wasn't financially motivated. Without approval, Corinne received only a small monthly allowance, enough to live on, nothing more. Second, the estate went into an irrevocable trust controlled by me. Corinne would inherit only after my death, and only if she demonstrated, in Preston's judgment, sound moral character, financial independence, and genuine recovery from any destructive behaviors. Third, a poison pill. If anyone challenged the will with fraudulent documents, they were immediately and completely disinherited. Everything would go to a charitable foundation. Vivian had protected me. Even dying, even with her daughter sitting beside her bed calculating how to steal her inheritance, my wife had protected me. The grief hit so hard I couldn't breathe. I put my head in my hands and sobbed. For Vivian who'd seen the truth, for Corinne who'd become someone I didn't recognize, for the family that had disintegrated while I'd been too blind with grief to notice. There's more, Preston said softly. He pushed the sealed envelope toward me. She wrote you a letter. She said, don't give this to Edmund until he knows Corinne has betrayed him, until he's angry enough to destroy her. That's when he needs to read what I have to say. I can't. My voice was wrecked. I can't read this right now. You have to. Because what happens next depends on what you do with this information. You can use the law to destroy Corinne completely. Or you can. He paused. Just read the letter, Edmund. I opened the envelope with hands that wouldn't stop shaking. My dearest Edmund, if you're reading this, our daughter has done something unforgivable. She's lied, forged documents, tried to take what isn't hers. You're probably furious. You're probably heartbroken. You're probably wondering how the little girl we loved so much became someone capable of this. I'm going to tell you something I should have told you years ago, but I was ashamed. I thought I could fix it myself. I thought if I just loved her hard enough, gave her enough chances, she'd find her way back. I was wrong. Edmund, Corinne has a gambling addiction. A severe one. It started 8 years ago, after her divorce. Online poker at first, then sports betting, then anything she could bet on. She came to me for money. Said it was for debt consolidation. I believed her. I gave her $50,000 from my private trust. She came back 6 months later. Another $50,000. Then again. And again. Over 7 years, I gave our daughter $400,000. My father's entire inheritance. Every penny I'd saved for emergencies, for retirement, for leaving something meaningful to her. She gambled it all away. I tried to help. I paid for therapy, intervention, rehab. She'd promised to stop. She'd show me app blocks on her phone, account closures, everything I needed to see. Then I'd find new charges, new debts, new lies. 3 months before my diagnosis, I finally said no. I told her the money was gone, that I had nothing left to give her, that she needed to face consequences. She looked at me with such hatred, Edmund, such pure contempt. She said, "You always loved him more than me. You always put his precious reputation first. But when you die, I'll take everything, and there's nothing he can do to stop me." That's when I knew. She wasn't planning to wait for me to die naturally. She was planning to take the estate the moment I was gone, before you even finished grieving. So I wrote this codicil, not to punish her, but to protect her from destroying herself with our money. For $1 million would last her maybe 3 years at the rate she gambles. Then she'd have nothing left except debt and shame. By now, you've probably discovered that Gerald is bankrupt, that he lost everything to gambling too. They didn't fall in love, Edmund. They found each other at a Gamblers Anonymous meeting and decided that instead of supporting each other's recovery, they'd enable each other's addiction. The marriage isn't about love. It's about one last desperate bet. They think if they can get the estate, they can finally win big enough to solve all their problems. They can't. They'll burn through everything we built, and then they'll turn on each other. So here's what I'm asking you to do, my love. And I know it's the hardest thing I've ever asked. Stop her. Use the law. Use this codicil. Protect our home and our legacy. But don't destroy her in the process. She needs to hit bottom. She needs to lose this gamble so completely that she has no choice but to face what she's become. But she also needs to know that when she's ready, really ready, to rebuild her life, you'll be there. You're going to want to cut her off completely. To tell her she's dead to you. To walk away and never look back. Don't. She's sick, Edmund. Addiction is a disease, and it's turned our beautiful, brilliant daughter into someone we don't recognize. But underneath the lies and the manipulation and the cruelty, she's still there. Still our little girl. She just needs to fall far enough that she's forced to remember who she really is. Give her enough to survive, but not enough to gamble with. Make her work for everything else. Make her prove she's serious about recovery. And when she's ready, if she's ready, be the father she needs, not the father she deserves. I know you're angry with me for keeping this secret. I know you feel betrayed that I didn't tell you sooner. But darling, you would have tried to fix it. You would have used your connections, your money, your reputation to make the problem disappear. And that wouldn't have helped her. It would have just delayed this moment. She needs to fail. She needs to feel the full consequences of her choices. And then she needs her father to love her anyway. That's the hardest kind of love. The kind that lets people fall. The kind that watches them hit bottom and doesn't look away. But it's the only kind that will save her. I'm so sorry I'm leaving you to do this alone. I'm so sorry I couldn't fix her before I died. But I know you, Edmund. You're the strongest, most principled man I've ever known. You'll do what's right, even when it breaks your heart. And if you're reading this and thinking you can't do it, that it's too hard, that you're too tired and too grief-stricken to fight this battle, do it anyway. Do it for me. Do it for the little girl who used to call you hero. Do it for the woman she could still become if someone loves her enough to let her fail. I love you, Edmund. I loved you every day of our 43 years together. And I'm trusting you now with the most important thing I ever had to give you. Our daughter's last chance at redemption. Don't let me down. All my love, always. Vivian. I don't know how long I sat there crying. Minutes. Hours. Time didn't exist anymore. Just this crushing weight of grief and rage and love all tangled together until I couldn't tell which emotion was which. Vivian had known. She'd known Corinne was sick, that she was gambling away her future, that she was planning to steal our home. And she'd hidden it from me because she knew I'd try to save our daughter before Corinne was ready to be saved. And now I had to do the impossible. Destroy my daughter's plans while somehow leaving room for her to rebuild. Preston sat quietly across from me, giving me space to process. When I finally looked up, he slid a box of tissues across the table. I'm sorry, Edmund. Vivian made me promise not to tell you until. I know. My voice was hoarse. Broken. She was right. If you told me earlier, I would have tried to fix it. Would have thrown money at the problem, covered up her debts, made it go away. I wiped my eyes. She knew me too well. What do you want to do? What did I want? I wanted my wife back. I wanted my daughter back. The real one, not this stranger who'd married my best friend to rob me. I wanted to wake up and discover this was all a nightmare. But I couldn't have any of that. So I do what Vivian asked. The only thing left that mattered. File an emergency injunction. Freeze all estate assets. Stop them from taking the house. My voice was getting stronger. Steadier. And I want Gerald investigated. If he forged legal documents. If he coerced my daughter. Edmund, you need to understand something. If we pursue this, if we present Vivian's real codicil in court, Corinne will be exposed publicly. Everyone will know she tried to forge her mother's will. Her addiction will become public record. Her reputation will be destroyed. I know. The grief was back, crushing my chest. But Vivian was right. She needs to hit bottom. And bottom means everyone knowing what she's done. And afterward, when the dust settles, I looked at Vivian's letter, at her handwriting that I'd recognize anywhere, at the words be the father she needs, not the father she deserves. Afterward, if she wants help, real help, treatment, recovery, I'll be there. But I won't enable her. Won't give her money to gamble away. Won't pretend this didn't happen. That's going to be harder than you think. She's your daughter. When she's broken and desperate and begging. I'll remember what Vivian wrote. That some love requires watching people fall. Preston nodded slowly. I'll file the paperwork today. Emergency hearing, probably next week. Can you? Are you strong enough to face Corinne in court? Was I strong enough? I was 68 years old. I just lost my wife 8 months ago. My daughter had betrayed me in the cruelest way imaginable. My best friend had conspired against me. I felt like I was dying. But Vivian had asked me to be strong. Had trusted me with our daughter's last chance. I'll be there, I said. I called Corinne that night. Couldn't help myself. I know I should have waited. Should have let the lawyers handle it. But I needed to hear her voice. Needed to understand if there was anything left of my daughter underneath the lies. She answered on the fourth ring. Daddy. Cautious. Guarded. Like she knew this wouldn't go well. I need to see you. Tonight. Just you. Not Gerald. I don't think that's a good idea. We should wait until. Corinne Elizabeth Whitmore, I am your father. I'm asking you to come to your mother's house, my house, and talk to me. If you have any respect left for me, for your mother's memory, you'll be here in 1 hour. Silence. Then, fine. 1 hour. But I'm not changing my mind about anything. She hung up. I sat in the library, in Vivian's chair, holding her cardigan, breathing in the fading scent of her perfume, preparing myself for the conversation that would either save my daughter or end our relationship forever. The crunch of tires on gravel exactly 60 minutes later. Corinne was always punctual. I taught her that. If you're on time, you're late. 5 minutes early is on time. She let herself in with her key. Of course she still had a key. This had been her home for 18 years, until she'd moved out after college. Until her life had started unraveling in ways Vivian and I hadn't seen coming. She stood in the doorway of the library, backlit by the hall light. For a moment, she looked 12 years old again. Small. Uncertain. My little girl. Then she stepped forward and I saw her face. Harder. Older. Lines around her eyes that hadn't been there a year ago. You wanted to talk, she said. Not sitting. Keeping her distance. When did you stop loving me? The words came out before I could stop them. Raw. Broken. I need to know. Was it when your mother got sick? Before that. When? Daddy, don't. Because I've been sitting here trying to figure out when my daughter, my beautiful, brilliant daughter who I would have died for, Became someone who could look at her dying mother and see dollar signs. Who could marry a man old enough to be? My voice cracked. Who could destroy me like this? You're being dramatic. Dramatic? I was on my feet, the rage finally breaking through. You married Gerald Aldrich. A man who changed your diapers. Who taught you to drive. Who? Jesus Christ, Corinne, he's 68 years old. So are you. You're both the same age, so why does it matter? Because he's not your partner. He's your father's contemporary. He's using you. He loves me. She was shouting now too, years of resentment pouring out. He actually sees me, listens to me, doesn't constantly compare me to perfect Vivian and find me lacking. Is that what you think? That I compared you to? I know you did. Every single day of my life. Your mother would have handled this differently. Your mother was so organized. Your mother never made these kinds of mistakes. Well, guess what, Daddy? I'm not her. I'm never going to be her. And I'm tired of apologizing for it. The pain in her voice was real. Genuine. Years of wounds I hadn't known I was inflicting. I never meant. I was crying again. Couldn't stop. Sweetheart, I never meant to make you feel that way. I loved you. I love you. Everything I did was to protect you. To give you opportunities, to control me. To mold me into what you wanted me to be. Well, I'm done being controlled. The house is legally mine. Gerald and I are moving in. And you can either accept that and stay in the guest wing, or you can leave. Your choice. The document is forged, Corinne. She went very still. What? Your mother's codicil. The one you sent me. It's a forgery. The notary seal is from a company that didn't exist when she died. The signatures are photocopied and digitally inserted. Gerald created it. Probably with your help. That's not. We wouldn't. Your mother signed a real codicil 3 days before she died. I've seen it. Her actual attorney has it, along with witness testimony. And it says something very different from what you sent me. The color drained from her face. You're lying. I wish I was. I pulled out my phone, showed her the photo I'd taken of Vivian's real codicil. She knew, Corinne. She knew you were planning this. She knew about Gerald. She knew everything. Corinne stared at the screen, and I watched something break behind her eyes. No. No. She couldn't have. She wouldn't have. She did. Because she loved you enough to protect you from yourself. Protect me. Corinne's voice was shrill now, desperate. By cutting me off? By leaving everything to you? By making sure I got nothing? By making sure you didn't gamble away $4 million the way you gambled away the $400,000 she already gave you? The words hit her like a physical blow. She stumbled backward, hit the doorframe, slid down to sit on the floor. She told you, she whispered. Oh God, she told you about the money. No, she left me a letter, explaining everything. The gambling, the lies, the $400,000 she gave you over 7 years. All of it. I was going to pay her back. I had a system I just needed. Corinne, stop. Please. Just stop lying. She looked up at me with eyes so full of shame and pain that I almost went to her. Almost got down on the floor and held her the way I used to when she was small and scared. But Vivian's voice was in my head. Don't fix it. Let her fall. Gerald said the document would work, she said, her voice small. Childlike. He said he knew estate law, that nobody would question it, that we'd be fine. Gerald is broke. He's $300,000 in debt from gambling. He saw you as a way out. A final bet. No. He loves me. He told me. He told you what you needed to hear to get access to this estate. And you believed him because you were desperate. Because you needed money to keep gambling. And you thought marrying him would solve everything. She was crying now, great heaving sobs that shook her whole body. I didn't want to hurt you. I swear, Daddy, I never wanted. But you did it anyway. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. Please, I'll fix this. We can tear up the document, pretend it never happened. I'll divorce Gerald. It's too late for that. No, it's not too late. We can make this right. I'll get help. I'll stop gambling. I'll do whatever you want. I filed an injunction. Emergency hearing next week. The judge will see both documents. The fake one you sent me and the real one your mother signed. Gerald will be investigated for forgery and fraud. And you, my voice broke. You'll be exposed. Everyone will know what you tried to do. Daddy, please. Please don't do this. I'm begging you. And there it was. My daughter on the floor, begging, broken, desperate. Everything in me screamed to make it stop. To tell her it would be okay. To fix it the way I'd fixed her scraped knees and broken toys and every other problem she'd ever had. But Vivian's letter was in my pocket. Don't look away. Let her fall. I'm sorry, sweetheart. But your mother was right. You need to hit bottom. And bottom means facing consequences. I'll lose everything. My reputation, any chance of, she was hyperventilating now. Everyone will know. Everyone will think I'm a gambling addict who forged her mother's will. Yes, they will. Because that's what you are. The cruelty of those words hurt me more than they hurt her. But they needed to be said. She looked at me with such hatred that I barely recognized her. You're destroying me. No, I'm refusing to enable you. There's a difference. Mom would never have done this. She would have helped me. She loved me more than. Your mother wrote the codicil that's going to disinherit you. She knew exactly what you were planning, and she stopped it. So don't tell me what she would have done. She already did it. Corinne stood on shaking legs. I'll never forgive you for this. I know, but maybe someday you'll understand why I did it. She left. Didn't slam the door. Just walked out quietly, like a ghost. I stood in the library for a long time after she was gone, holding Vivian's cardigan, crying for the daughter I'd just lost, and the wife who'd seen this coming and prepared me for it anyway. Gerald called at midnight. I almost didn't answer, but something made me pick up. Edmund. His voice was tight. Controlled. We need to talk about this situation rationally. Man to man. There's nothing to talk about. I understand you're upset. Finding out about Corinne and me this way. It must have been a shock. But we're all adults here. We can work something out. A financial settlement, perhaps. You keep the house. We get compensation for the forged document you created? For the fraud you committed? For marrying my daughter to steal my home? Silence. Then, you can't prove I forged anything. Your fingerprints are all over it, Gerald. Wrong notary, wrong dates, wrong language. You were good, but not good enough. And I've got 30 years of experience prosecuting men who thought they were smarter than the law. Ed, listen to me carefully. If you pursue this, you'll destroy Corinne. Her name will be dragged through the courts. Everyone will know about her problems. Is that really what you want? What I want is irrelevant. This is about what's right. Right? He laughed, bitter and harsh. You self-righteous son of a bitch. You've always thought you were better than everyone else. Perfect Edmund with his perfect wife and his perfect career. Well, Vivian's dead. Your daughter hates you. And you're going to die alone in that big, empty house with nothing but your precious principles to keep you warm. The rage came back, hot and bright. You're a parasite, Gerald. You attached yourself to people with money. To me, to our firm, to my daughter, and you drained them dry. You're a bankrupt gambling addict who saw a vulnerable woman and decided to use her for one last score. She came to me. She called me after Vivian died. She was crying, saying how alone she felt. How you were so wrapped up in your grief that you couldn't see her suffering. I comforted her. I listened to her. I gave her something you never did, attention. You preyed on her when she was at her most vulnerable. You're a man her father's age, someone she should have been able to trust like family. Instead, you saw a weakness and exploited it. That's the uncomfortable truth neither of you wants to face. You found her at her weakest, and you manipulated her. I love her. You love what she could give you. And when the money runs out, and it will, Gerald, because you'll gamble it all away, you'll discard her like you've discarded everyone else who couldn't feed your addiction. His breathing was ragged now. Desperate. I'm 68 years old, Ed. A conviction destroys me. I'll never practice law again. I'll never, please. For 30 years of friendship. For everything we built together. Don't do this. You destroyed our friendship when you married my daughter. You destroyed everything when you forged those documents. This is on you. Then let me tell you what's going to happen. You're going to win in court. You'll get your house back. You'll expose Corinne's gambling. You'll send me to prison or probation or whatever self-righteous punishment you think I deserve. And you know what you'll have at the end of it. What? Nothing. No wife. No daughter. No friend. Just an empty house full of ghosts and the cold comfort of knowing you were right. Is that really worth it? I thought about Vivian's letter. About her asking me to let Corinne fall. About loving someone enough to watch them destroy themselves so they could rebuild. Yes, I said. It's worth it. I hung up. The next 3 days were a blur of legal preparation. Preston filed motions. I gave depositions. An FBI agent I'd worked with years ago agreed to investigate the forgery as a personal favor. And I sat in my empty house, surrounded by Vivian's things, trying to prepare myself for what was coming. Corinne called twice. I didn't answer. She left voicemails. Daddy, please. We can fix this. Just talk to me. And later, you're really going to do this? You're really going to destroy your only child to prove a point? I didn't call back. Vivian's letter said, she needs to fall far enough that she's forced to remember who she really is. How far was far enough? How much pain did my daughter need to feel before she'd be ready to change? I didn't know, but I knew that if I wavered now, if I let her manipulate me with guilt and tears, I'd undo everything Vivian had sacrificed to set up. On Thursday morning, the day before the hearing, I went to Vivian's grave. The headstone was simple. Vivian Margaret Whitmore, beloved wife and mother, 1957 to 2024. I sat on the ground beside her, not caring that the grass was wet, that I was getting my suit dirty. I don't know if I can do this, I said to the marble stone. She called me. She's begging. And every instinct I have is screaming at me to fix it, to make it stop, to be her father the way I've always been her father, protecting her, solving her problems, making sure she never has to face the full consequences of her choices. The wind moved through the trees. Birds sang. The world continued turning, indifferent to my pain. But you asked me to let her fall. You asked me to be strong enough to watch her destroy herself so she could rebuild. And I'm trying, Vivian. God, I'm trying. But it's killing me. I put my hand on the cold marble, imagining I could feel her warmth underneath. I need you, I whispered. I need you to tell me I'm doing the right thing. That this isn't just cruelty disguised as tough love. That somewhere underneath all the lies and manipulation, our daughter is still there. Still worth saving. A couple walked past, giving me a wide berth. An old man talking to a gravestone. Probably thought I was crazy. Maybe I was. Tomorrow I'm going to stand in that courtroom and present evidence that destroys our daughter's reputation. That exposes her addiction and her crimes. That proves she forged her dead mother's will to steal money for gambling. And she's going to hate me for it. Maybe forever. The tears came again. I was so tired of crying. So tired of grief and pain and this crushing weight of responsibility. I hope you're right, I told Vivian's grave. I hope this is what saves her. Because if it's not, if I'm wrong about this, I'll have destroyed my daughter for nothing. And I don't think I could live with that. The stone had no answers. The dead never do. But I stood anyway, straightened my tie, prepared myself for tomorrow. Because Vivian had trusted me with this. And I wouldn't let her down, even if it broke my heart. Friday morning, the courthouse. I arrived early, found my seat in the courtroom. Preston sat beside me, organized and calm in that way lawyers learn, presenting confidence even when the outcome is uncertain. You ready? He asked quietly. No, but I'm here. That's all Vivian asked for. The doors opened. Corinne walked in with Gerald and their attorney, some bottom-tier estate lawyer who looked like he wished he'd never taken this case. Our eyes met across the courtroom. She looked terrible. Hadn't slept. Makeup smudged like she'd been crying. Wearing a conservative dress that was probably supposed to make her look respectable, but only emphasized how thin she'd gotten, how fragile. My daughter. My little girl. Destroying herself in front of my eyes. And I was about to make it so much worse. The bailiff called the court to order. Judge Margaret Chen entered, a woman I'd appeared before during my prosecuting days. Fair. Rigorous. No nonsense. We're here for an emergency injunction regarding the Whitmore estate, she said. Mr. Hale, you filed the motion? Preston stood. Yes, Your Honor. We're seeking to freeze all estate assets pending resolution of conflicting will documents. The respondents, Corinne Whitmore Aldrich and Gerald Aldrich, have presented a codicil they claim gives them immediate ownership of the estate. We contend that document is fraudulent. Strong accusation, Mr. Hale. Can you support it? I can, Your Honor. For the next hour, Preston methodically destroyed Corinne's case. He presented the real codicil with witness testimony. He brought in the nurses who'd been there when Vivian signed it. He demonstrated the forgery, wrong notary, wrong dates, wrong everything. I watched my daughter crumble with each piece of evidence. Watched her attorney frantically whisper in her ear. Watched Gerald's face go from confident to panicked to defeated. And I felt nothing. I'd cried myself empty. Now there was just this hollow determination to see it through. Ms. Whitmore Aldrich, Judge Chin said, did you create this false document? Corinne stood on shaking legs. Your Honor, my husband assured me. Did you personally create it? Yes or no? No. But I knew it was. Her voice broke. I knew something was wrong with it. I didn't ask questions because I didn't want to know the truth. At least she was being honest now. Too late, but honest. Mr. Aldrich? The judge's voice was ice. You're a former estate attorney. You created this forgery. Gerald looked at his lawyer, who nodded slightly. I invoke my Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. Of course you do. Judge Chen looked at the documents spread before her. This is one of the most brazen frauds I've seen in 20 years on the bench. Mrs. Whitmore died 8 months ago. Before her body was even cold, you two were plotting to steal her estate through forged documents. Your Honor, Corinne's attorney stood. My client is a victim here. Mr. Aldrich manipulated. Your client admitted she knew the document was suspicious and proceeded anyway. That's not victimhood. That's complicity. The judge looked at Corinne with something like pity. Ms. Whitmore Aldrich, I've read your mother's real codicil. I've read the letter she left for your father. She knew you had a gambling problem. She knew you'd try something like this. And she took steps to protect both you and the estate. Corinne was crying silently now, tears streaming down her face. The injunction is granted. All estate assets remain under Mr. Whitmore's control per the legitimate codicil. I'm referring Mr. Aldrich to the prosecutor for criminal charges. And Ms. Whitmore Aldrich, the judge paused. I'm not charging you criminally. Your mother's letter makes it clear you're suffering from addiction. But I'm ordering you to enter treatment within 30 days or face charges of conspiracy to commit fraud. Your Honor, I can't afford. Your father will pay for treatment. Won't you, Mr. Whitmore? Every eye in the courtroom turned to me. This was the moment. I could refuse. Could tell her she'd made her choices, and now she had to face them alone. Could walk away and let her burn. But Vivian's letter, be the father she needs, not the father she deserves. I'll pay, I said. My voice sounded dead. On the condition that she completes the full program. No early departure. No excuses. Daddy, Corinne's voice was raw. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry. Sorry doesn't fix this. Sorry is just a word you say when you finally understand what you've lost. The judge banged her gavel. We're adjourned. The courthouse steps were crowded with people who'd heard about the case. Small town. Everyone knew everyone. Margaret Pemberton was there, my neighbor for 20 years. She looked at Corinne with open disgust. Your mother was a saint, she said as Corinne tried to pass. And you spit on her grave. Others murmured agreement. Someone said, shame, loud enough for everyone to hear. Corinne stumbled, and for a moment I thought she might fall. Gerald tried to steady her, but she shoved him away. Don't touch me, she hissed. Don't ever touch me again. Corinne, we need to talk strategy. Strategy? You lied to me. You said the document would work. You said, her voice was rising, hysterical. This is your fault. All of it. I didn't force you to marry me. You needed the money as much as I did. She slapped him. Hard. The crack echoed across the courthouse steps. We're done. I'm filing for annulment tomorrow. You can't afford a lawyer. Then I'll do it myself. I'll do anything to get away from you. She ran to her car, fumbling with keys, finally getting the door open and speeding away. Gerald stood there, red mark on his face, watching her go. Then he looked at me. Happy now, he said. You destroyed us both. No. You destroyed yourselves. I just refused to let you destroy anything else. He walked away without another word. 3 weeks later, Gerald took a plea deal. 3 years probation. 500 hours of community service. Full restitution of legal fees. The judge added a special condition. His community service would be performed maintaining the grounds of the Whitmore estate. Under my supervision. I didn't argue. Something about it felt right. Biblical almost. Making him rebuild what he'd tried to destroy. He showed up the first Saturday at 7 a.m. Hollow-eyed. Beaten. Where do you want me to start? He asked quietly. North fence. Needs painting. He worked in silence. I sat on the porch with coffee, watching. We didn't speak. What was there to say? Corinne entered an inpatient facility in North Carolina. 6-month program. She called once a week, brief conversations where she updated me on her progress. I'm working the steps, she said in week 4. Making my list of people I hurt. Good. Daddy, I need to know, can you ever forgive me? I thought about forgiveness. What it cost. What it meant. Ask me again when you've completed the program. That's not fair. Fair doesn't matter anymore. What matters is whether you're serious about changing. She hung up angry. Good. Anger meant she still had fight in her. Meant she hadn't given up completely. Month 3. Preston called. Vivian's charitable foundation just received an anonymous donation. $50,000. earmarked for addiction treatment scholarships. Who? Bank won't say. But Edmund. The donation came from an account that traces back to Corinne's ex-husband. Her first one. Dennis. Dennis? She hasn't spoken to him in years. Apparently he heard about what happened. He's been sober for 5 years. AA sponsor. He wanted to help. People could surprise you. Even people you'd written off. Month 5. Corinne's counselor called me. Mr. Whitmore, your daughter asked me to call. She wants you to come for family week. She's ready to do her accountability work face to face. What does that involve? She'll read you a letter. Tell you everything she did. Everything she feels. You'll have a chance to respond. She paused. It's going to be hard. For both of you. But it's an important step. I'll be there. The facility was in the mountains. Beautiful views. Peaceful. Nothing like the hell Corinne was probably living inside her head. They led me to a small room. 2 chairs facing each other. Box of tissues on the table. Corinne came in looking different. Thinner still, but stronger somehow. Eyes clearer. Hair pulled back. No makeup. She looked like herself again. Not the person she'd been pretending to be. The actual her. We sat. Hi, Daddy. Hi, sweetheart. She pulled out folded papers. Her hands shook. I'm supposed to read you this letter. It's part of my 9th step. Making amends. And I need you to just listen. Not interrupt. Can you do that? Yes. She took a deep breath and began to read. Dear Daddy, I stole from my dying mother. I forged legal documents. I married a man I didn't love to steal your home. I accused you of never caring about me when the truth is you cared too much and I was too selfish to see it. I blamed you for every bad choice I made because taking responsibility meant admitting I was the problem, not you. I gambled away $400,000. I lied to everyone who loved me. I destroyed our family for money I was just going to throw away anyway. And when you tried to stop me, I hated you for it because hate was easier than shame. She was crying now, but kept reading. I don't deserve your forgiveness. I don't deserve another chance. But I'm asking anyway because that's what the program says I have to do. Not because I expect you to give it, but because I need to say it out loud. I'm sorry, Daddy. I'm so sorry for everything. And if you never want to see me again, I understand. But I needed you to know, I see it now. What I did. What I became. And I'm trying to be better. Even if it's too late. She folded the paper. Looked at me with red, swollen eyes. That's it. That's what I needed to say. The counselor nodded at me. My turn. I looked at my daughter. Really looked at her. Saw the little girl who'd call me hero. Saw the teenager who'd rolled her eyes at my dad jokes. Saw the woman who'd stood at her mother's funeral and held my hand while we both pretended we were strong enough to survive this. I forgive you, I said. She started sobbing. You can't. You can't just. Yes, I can. Because your mother asked me to. And because underneath everything you did, you're still my daughter. And I still love you. Even after everything. She fell out of her chair and onto her knees in front of me, and I pulled her into my arms the way I used to when she was small. Let her cry against my chest. Let her shake and break and finally let go of whatever she'd been holding on to. I miss her, she whispered. I miss Mom so much. And I can't tell her I'm sorry. Can't tell her I understand now what she was trying to do. She knows. Somehow, wherever she is, she knows. We sat like that for a long time. Father and daughter. Broken, but not destroyed. Wounded, but healing. Month 6. Graduation day. Corinne completed the program. Stood in front of her cohort and told her story. No lies. No excuses. Just brutal honesty about what addiction had taken from her. I sat in the back row and cried. Not from grief this time. From something else. Something that might have been hope. Afterward, she came to find me. What happens now? She asked. Now you start over. Sober living house. Job. Meetings. Building a life that doesn't involve gambling. And us? Our relationship. One day at a time. Like they taught you. Can I come home sometimes? For dinner? I don't mean to live there. Just to visit. I thought about the empty house. The echoes of Vivian's laughter. The memories in every room. Yes, you can come home. You're one. Gerald finished his community service. The estate looked better than it had in decades. Every fence perfect. Every gate oiled. Every corner of the property restored. His last day, he approached the porch where I sat. Edmund, I need to say something. Go ahead. You were right. About everything. I was using Corinne. I was desperate and broken, and I saw her as one last bet. And I destroyed what was left of my life, trying to win it. He looked at the property he'd spent a year maintaining. But this year, working with my hands, rebuilding something instead of tearing it down. It taught me something. That real work, honest work, it means something. More than any gamble ever could. What are you going to do now? I'm leaving Virginia. Moving to North Carolina. There's a community college that needs a paralegal instructor. It doesn't pay much, but it's honest. And maybe I can teach kids not to make the mistakes I made. Good luck. He held out his hand. I looked at it for a long moment. 30 years of friendship. 1 year of betrayal. 1 year of restoration. I shook his hand. Goodbye, Gerald. Goodbye, Edmund. Year 2. Corinne got a job at the museum. Curatorial assistant. It didn't pay much, but she loved it. She came for Sunday dinners. We talked about art, about her meetings, about life without gambling. She was dating someone. A man her age, a teacher, someone she'd met at an Al-Anon meeting. They were taking it slow. Is it serious? I asked. Maybe. He knows about my past. About what I did. And he's still here. That means something. It does. Daddy, can I ask you something? Anything. Do you think Mom would be proud of me? Now, I mean, after everything. I thought about Vivian. About her letter. About the long game she'd been playing. Yes, I think she'd be very proud. Present day, 2 years after that phone call. I'm sitting on the porch watching the sun set over Virginia. The estate is quiet. Beautiful. Full of memories, both painful and precious. My phone rings. Corinne. Hey, Daddy. What are you doing? Just sitting. Thinking. About Mom. Always about Mom. Me too. Pause. Listen, I have news. Big news. My chest tightened. What kind of news? The museum offered me a promotion. Curator. It's a real job. Actual money. And Daddy, I've been sober for 2 years. 2 full years. I want to celebrate, and I want you to be there. Of course I'll be there. There's something else. Remember how Mom's codicil said I could inherit after demonstrating 2 years of sobriety and financial independence? Yes. I don't want it. The estate, I mean. It's yours. You've earned it. You fought for it. And honestly, I don't think I'm ready for that responsibility. Maybe someday. But not now. I felt something loosen in my chest. Pride. Relief. Love. That's very mature of you. I learned from the best. Both of you. After we hung up, I sat for a long time in the gathering dark. Vivian had been right. About everything. Corinne had needed to fall. Had needed to hit bottom so hard she couldn't ignore what she'd become. And now she was climbing back up. Slowly. Carefully. Building a life worth living. It hadn't been revenge. It had been salvation. The hardest kind of love. The kind that lets people destroy themselves so they can learn to rebuild. I pulled out my phone and looked at the last photo I had of Vivian. Taken a week before she died. She's smiling at the camera, but her eyes are on me. Full of love and trust and absolute faith that I'd do what needed to be done. We did it. I whispered to her image. You were right. She's going to be okay. The stars came out one by one. The night settled over the estate. And somewhere, somehow, I felt Vivian smile. Not because we'd won some battle, but because we'd saved our daughter. And that was the only victory that ever mattered. I drop 2 stories a day. Please subscribe to my channel so you don't miss them. If you enjoyed this story, please click on one of the boxes showing on your screen for more. Thank you for listening.